Emily, are you there? Here we go.
Okay. Can you hear me now, Jerome?
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Great. We have here in St. Paul, we have Leon, Lee, Peter, myself, I'm Wayne. Will is on the phone, and I see that Bob is joining us through Zoom. So we actually, all 6 members are here, so we do have a quorum. So I will call the meeting to order. 6:12. As I said, all 6 Planning Commission members are here. The first order of business will be the Supernatural Produce 3, the final annexation and land development plan. And I will turn that over to Jerome.
Yes, thank you. This has been a project that's been in the works for a while. It is a revitalization project that is located along Elm Street, Madison, and North 4th. And the project involves a supermarket. It also involves existing 9 apartment buildings, and it's going to also have an on-site parking facility as well. There were a number of issues that were being addressed with that have been addressed that are relative to site accessibility, planning modules, which they have now been taken care of and have been processed and have been going to DEP. And we are still just waiting on an HOP. That seems to be the only outstanding issues. We've asked the developer also for cost estimates for a municipal improvements agreement, and they will be required to do a stormwater management agreement as well. Those are all outlined in my letter dated March 16th. The plan has been addressed on all the other minor issues, and the plan is ready for final plan approval, subject to those to the outstanding issues in the March 16th letter.
Yeah. Are there any other comments from staff?
I'm not sure. Are you picking up my voice? They don't. Jerome, just a point for clarification. Are you thinking that the HOP would be issued before the plans are signed, or would you want the note on the plan that requires HOP approval?
The note is on the plan, and we also want to put the actual HOP number on the plan. So they'll bring the plan back. We feel that this can be accomplished within 90 days of today. So we would like them to put that number on the plan. Is that right, Tim? Is that what we would want?
Yeah, that's normally the case. That's what we'd like to see.
Okay, so you wouldn't have the plan signed until the number was issued.
Correct.
Any comments from the planning commissioners? Okay. Very good. I, believe it or not, I have none either. I'm just glad to see that this plan has moved ahead forward. And I believe, so we went through everyone. So if there are no other comments, may I hear a motion for final approval of the Supernatural Produce #3, the final annexation and land development plan, with the provision that all comments on Jerome's letter dated March 16th, 2022 are fulfilled within the next 90 days.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lee Olson. I will make that motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Nelson De Leon, second the motion.
Okay, we have we have a motion by Lee and seconded by Nelson. Are there any questions on any question on the motion? Okay, hearing no, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Just for
Very
the
good.
record, could we have everyone that it was for that's representing Supernatural? Could we have them just introduce themselves so we have it for the record?
Hi, this is Mike Pilko, architect for Supernatural Foods. I see we have
This is
Dan.
Dan Laudenslayer with Tarson LLC.
Stephen Custer, RHG Associates, architect for Supernatural Foods.
Delmin Dan, Leo's son and assistant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope to, now it being spring, I'm sure you'll be getting moving forward quickly with your project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay, next on the agenda, we have Dream Ventures, a final land development at 100 South 4th Street. And I will turn this over to Jerome for introduction.
Okay, thank you. This plan was submitted. It was as a final plan. The final plan was prepared as a result of a meeting that we had on February 12th, in which we had some dialogue. The staff has also had some additional dialogue with the applicant. This project is an adaptive reuse project located at 100 South 4th Street. It involves the adaptive reuse of a former industrial site, warehouse manufacturing site that will be converted into 20 residential units. The applicant has submitted his plan, and I think we're just down to a few minor issues that need to be resolved. The most pressing are going to be probably the planning modules. We had asked for some additional information with regards to municipal improvements that may deal with curbs and sidewalks. Those issues may have to be further evaluated by Public Works. And let's see what the other issues are. We asked for a few notes. The county has also reviewed the plan, so they passed that as well. Can everyone introduce themselves for Dream Ventures?
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Mark Cuck on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah, Plato Marinakis, the architect for the applicant.
Andrew Goldston, here on behalf of the developer and the owner.
Okay, thank you. So we feel that this plan is in good shape. This, again, was an adaptive reuse plan, and there are minimal site improvements. There's nothing else. What we're waiting for is in terms of approval from PennDOT, since they are not going to be modifying the existing driveway cut that's located along Franklin Street. So if there are any improvements that are going to be conducted within the right of way, an HOP would be required. I have no further comments on that. We are recommending final plan approval, subject to the remaining comments on this letter dated March 18th, which contained 15 comments, but I think they've now been reduced to about 7.
There any other comments by staff?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Tim. I agree with the letter that we will need to take a look at planning modules. I'm not sure exactly what the prior use was. I don't know that this has prior planning approval on record. I'm going to guess it probably doesn't. So we'll have to do the typical drill of looking at what maybe past water records are and seeing what that is compared to what the engineer estimates the proposed use would be. I'm going to guess, based on what I'm seeing there, industrial warehouse, that the proposed use is going to exceed the water use or the sewage use of what may have been used there in the past. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be in excess of 1 EDU, since there's all these number of units. And there's a fairly good chance that planning modules, additional planning, would be necessary for this use. Well, there's 2 other questions. I also agree with the review letter that we need to take a look at the curbs and sidewalks, even though these are both state highways. The state looks at everything from the curb back to the building line as being city responsibility, even though it technically falls into the state right away. It's still the city's responsibility to update that. So I would suggest to the developer to check with property maintenance to see if there's any existing inspection records, violations, notices on the curbs and sidewalks. It definitely looks like we have some sidewalk issues, if not on the Franklin Street side, certainly on the North 4th or South 4th Street side. Looks like we have some upheaved, displaced sidewalk sections there that would not meet. And then the other question, and Jerome, I don't know if you've looked into this, and maybe the architect could describe, do you have a way that you could put the drawing up there, Jerome, or anyone, Emily?
Emily has it, I think.
On the Franklin Street side, there are some items there described as proposed egress well. I think there's 3 of them. If you would mind explaining what those are, and would they have anything to do with what the city refers to as an areaway?
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, the egress wells are, we don't have the floor plans, but those 3 egress wells are for sleeping rooms. Because this building has a basement that's all the way in the ground on the right-hand side, and then as it goes along Franklin Street, it comes out of the ground, so that basically it's not really a basement. It's sort of like a half story above grade, below grade and above grade. So these 3 are for emergency escape windows for the bedrooms.
So it would be basically an opening in the sidewalk that would extend below the grade level to provide light and egress.
Yeah, I mean, light ventilation and egress. There would be a grate that would be flush with the sidewalk that would prevent somebody from falling into egress well, but somebody coming out from the apartment, God forbid there's a fire, could open the gate, grate and get out safely.
So the concern that I have here is that we have in our ordinances in chapter 508, streets and sidewalks. And this comes under the purview of typically public works, because we pretty much handle the right of way, the public right of way. And in there under 508, 514B, it talks about area ways extending beyond the building line on streets of which both Franklin and 4th Street are named, that these are not permitted. And if our solicitor is online, maybe she can check that to make sure I'm reading that correctly. And if these things would be considered area ways. An area way in my mind would be exactly that. You would have an opening in the sidewalk that would extend below grade down to a lower level, like a basement or a subfloor, giving light and ventilation and perhaps, egress. So I don't know if these would meet that definition, and if they do, we may have to do some sort of a correction or something here in order to it to be, for it to be compatible with the ordinance.
Tim, they did have zoning relief that was granted to them for this project.
For 508, for this specific one?
They took into account the facade and all the improvements that were going to be necessary for the conversion into 20 residential apartments.
Okay, if that particular element is in there, then I guess it's been covered.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will.
Go ahead, Will.
Thank you. There may be a conflict with our ordinance and the International Building Code, because I believe for below grade bedrooms, an egress window is required. And when it's not flush with the grade, then there has to be a well, such as being proposed. So regardless of the particulars of the zoning relief, this may be something we might have to look at for amendment in the future, but I think we're supposed to defer to the building code, if I'm not mistaken.
And we intend on also taking the provisions for sidewalks out of the zoning ordinance.
Right.
Right.
Right. I while we're on this, I meant to ask before, there are no vaults here, right?
Good question.
This is Andrew. I'm there where the staircase is along Franklin Street. So you see where the furthest one kind of on the left-hand side of the screen. I think that we have, like, it's either a foot, it's a little bit of like where I think probably they would fill the old oil tank for the boiler is a little bit under the sidewalk, but it's underneath the staircase. I don't want to say no to the vaults, but I mean, essentially no vaults. It's just, you have that one little area, and that area is not on our plans. It's not being used. It's de minimis, and it's not anywhere where anyone's walking, and it's been there for 100 years. But it seems to, that part of the room just goes a little bit further.
Tim, I'm actually present at the meeting, so I don't have access to the ordinance.
Yeah, Will is asking a good question, and I don't know, Will, did you want to follow up on that? I have a
No,
follow-up.
I leave it in your hands, Tim, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, because of prior experience with vaults, the concern on the city is just so that the owner recognizes that any subterranean encroachment to the right of way, in other words, anything beyond the building line, would be within the public right of way. If there is a vault of any size that goes beyond the building, that the owner understands that belongs to the owner. That vault is it's their responsibility, not the city's responsibility. And it would be very beneficial for us that you would indicate that on the plan.
We're happy to make that a
And
condition.
I think Mr. Cuck would understand what I'm talking about.
Mr. Kroll, I have no idea what you're referring to.
Yeah, you do.
We have one of our projects in.
I'm kidding, of course.
I know you are.
One of our projects in Philadelphia is the Public Ledger Building right across from Independence Mall. and Independence Hall, and we have, I think, 8 or 10 vaults less subterranean, less than 15 or 20 feet from Independence Hall. So we are well versed in vaults as well. So we'll make sure that anything that's required is we definitely understand it, and that won't be an issue.
And if this were proposed, just for instance, if you were just proposing the egress wells or just the stairs or just the ADA lift or something like that, those would be normally done as construction permits. They would go through zoning, it would go through building and trades, and then to Public Works for a permit. And so I guess I'm throwing out there, normally when we see them on land development plans and it goes through that, all those people are here looking at it. Normally that would not involve that. The fact that it's being approved, through planning would sort of eliminate the need for having to go through a separate permit. So my question still comes back to the egress wells. What is being installed? All I see is a square with hatching. Is there, what's to protect the fall hazard? Is there a railing of some kind, or?
There'll be no railing. It'll be flush with the street, steel grate. It would you could walk on it, jump on it, do whatever you want on it. And then.
So it's more like cellar. It's more like a cellar stair. There would be
Yes.
stairway there?
Yeah, and the encroachment will be, if there's any, will be less than what the existing stairway is. And for the street purposes, it's why, as we indicated in the updates onto our plan and the notes, that we indicated that we will be doing sidewalk work, because it kind of goes hand in hand with redoing that sidewalk. It'll be perfectly flush and look a lot nicer than it is now. And
right.
They'll, walkability wise, every square foot of that space, unless, like Plato said, God forbid there's a fire, is usable, all the other time. It's just, when we met with the fire marshals, it was, a lot of their questions, other than the sprinkler system, were on these egress wells, making sure that they're up to code, which requires them.
Very good. Yeah, in fact, the fact that you now describe that in that way, as like with flush, with doorway and stairs, that actually more fits the definition of cellar stairs, which are not areaways, which would not involve the chapter 508 514B, which means that would not apply. So that earlier comment would be irrelevant, since now we're talking about cellar stairs, which are permitted as far as I'm aware of. I don't think there is a problem with that, regardless if there was a zoning variance or not.
Tim,
So we're good there.
To go back to your question of regarding if the zoning hearing board did consider this, they did look at these floor plans, which did have the, let's call them the basement level units, which they did provide all this information on. So it was considered.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, I think that's all my comments.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other staff comments? Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Jerome, did I understand you earlier in your comments that there is a half basement, or there's a half story below grade, below the sidewalk, and these grates are means of egress in the event of an emergency to get out, and there are bedrooms in the basement area? Is that correct?
Yes, and it's my understanding that building codes and trades has looked at this plan initially just as a cursory review. Fire marshal has also looked at it, and it was also looked at by the zoning staff before it went to the zoning hearing board.
And they are okay with the juxtaposition of the basement floor and the sidewalk. And what I thought I heard one of the gentlemen say, there are grates that will be flush with the sidewalk. And is that where air and light come into the basement area for living spaces?
Well, I'm sorry. No, it's not a basement in the sense of a fully undergrade basement. It's partially out of the ground and in the ground, so part of the,
Majority, and in our February meeting, we had the elevations up, but at no point in the basement is more than 50% of the basement below grade, where there are units. It's actually a majority of where the units are about 60 to, almost 70% above grade. So it's kind of a misnomer to call it a basement. It's more like an English basement or what, could have, if there was
and just, it's technically not a basement per the International Building Code. It's a 5-story building. So there's that area that we're calling, it's really a ground floor. It's partially in the ground, but it's really a 5-story building.
And when we were with the fire marshal, their preliminary determination is that we're going to count as a 5-story building. So they're counting the basement as a traditional floor, which will increase the life safety and sprinkler requirements, when we do construction, because the extra 5th floor puts us into NFPA 13 territory instead of 13R. So that was part of that was part of some of the work that we've done already.
All right, I'm sorry, I could not understand what you were saying, but let me just ask the question. In the event of an emergency and I am a fireman, will I be able to break into the window to rescue anybody in the sleeping quarters, which is a requirement of the code?
So the way that I understand it, and Plato, correct me if I'm wrong, is the code requires the windows for egress, not ingress. In terms of ingress, like they'll be, traditionally like you'd have like the knock box or something like that outside the building, and the fire marshal, who we've spoken to already would be familiar with the layout. And we have the 2 proposed fire stairs per code. And you would have that means of access, 1 through one of the primary fire stairs, and then 2 through the staircase where the ADA lift is. So there are 2 means of entry for the fire department to enter the building. So it's the same thing as it's less of they're literally a few steps from entering the basement versus having to climb stairs to go upstairs. They have the 2 means of kind of ingress and egress in those staircases, but the window wells.
I think the question is, I think they make grates that could be active, that can be opened from the outside in the case of a fire. We'd have to investigate that too, because I see your point about rescuing somebody from the outside.
And just to point out, the entire plan remains subject to building and trades approval, and then also approval by the fire marshal. So anything that's required per code, we've expressed to the fire marshal in our meetings with them that we want to be on the safe side. So if we're on the line of something like what we were with the NFPA 13 and versus just the 13R, we'll take the 13 and spend the extra money and do the extra work to get it up to the highest standard.
Well, yeah, I would
I'm gonna
suggest that
be interested in both buildings and trades and the fire marshal, because your explanation does not satisfy my requirement. So if Jeremy Searfoss has looked at this and both buildings and trades, and they see the availability of access for emergency from the outside into sleeping quarters in your half basement, then I will defer to the buildings and trades people. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commissioners? I just have one very quickly that I probably missed it. I would assume that this is going to require a new water line for the sprinkler system. And I was just wanted to make sure that that's marked on the plan.
That would all be groundwork, and that's something that we've had actually pretty lengthy discussions at City Hall with Jamal and his team about.
Okay. Yeah, that would be the only thing I'm looking for, because a lot of developers of these apartment buildings don't realize that you actually do need two separate water lines coming into the building. One for potable water and one for the sprinkler system.
Yeah, and then they'll ultimately those will be subject to their own drawings, and then final plans will show like everything else like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Will again. Just as a follow-up to the concern Commissioner Olson raised, which was a good concern. I think standard with the grate for a window, any kind of grate, is a quick release mechanism. So I'm sure that's something that would be specified by building and trades.
We can add it to our specifications too. I think
We
it's a
remain
good point.
totally subject to their approval. So they'll
I
be
mean, if
looking-
it isn't a requirement, it's yeah, something that would be prudent.
I would totally agree.
Very good. Okay, any other comments? Okay, with that, Jerome, you mentioned that because of the work that's been done in the past few days, you're comfortable with having a vote on this plan?
Yes, and I have all your conditions noted that I'll ask that they be also added as conditions of approval. These will mostly go through building and trades for final approval, as well as going back to the fire marshal, just to make sure that these concerns are addressed.
Okay, very good. With that, do I hear a motion to, there it is, to approve the final land development plan, provided that the comments are fulfilled to the satisfaction of staff on the Hawk Valley Associates letter dated March 17th, 2022, and that the question of the sidewalk wells and the sidewalks are addressed.
Mr. Chairman, this is Lee Olson. I will make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second from Peter. Okay, question on the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay. Okay, seems we are unanimous. Thank you very much to the developers once again, and we wish you the best of luck on this project.
Thank you all.
Thank you to the members of the
Thank
commission
you.
and thank you to the staff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Next on our list is the Villa Independent Cottages preliminary land development plan. And I will turn this back over to Jerome for an introduction on this new plan.
Thank you. This is the Villa Independent Cottages. There are 5 proposed cottages that are going to be located on their facility, which is located at or along, let's see, Orchard Road, Evergreen Road, and Old Wyomissing Road. Access to this facility will be probably most likely through Orchard, but it does have a secondary point of access into the facility as well. The proposal is for 5 independent cottages to be utilized by people that would require assisted living or partial care at this facility. We did get comments back from the fire marshal as well. We provided a number of comments which would need to be addressed, mostly dealing with the site accessibility issue from Orchard into the facility and the width of the proposed access road as well. We'll go through that a little bit later, but I would like the folks who are here from Villa Independent Care or Cottages to introduce themselves.
Larry Grabowski, I guess I'm the only one here I'm C2C Design Group representing the villas.
Larry, you want to have anything to add to the introduction?
No, might want to talk about the stormwater management a little bit later too.
Okay.
But
so we
looking
did issue a review. This is under a preliminary plan review. The stormwater comments are probably the most extensive that we have on this list. There are 3 waivers that are requested. They will need to go through planning module approval for this site. And also I brought up about the comments that were brought up with site accessibility going from Orchard to this site. The fire marshal needs to have 26 feet in width. That's unimpeded. And I think that will need to be shown on this plan. And he will need further discussion or verification on if there's going to be parking on the access street that serves the 5 cottages. Can you answer that question, Larry?
yeah, we're proposing parking shown on sheet LO-1, the layout drawing. The garages, we're probably going to change that. It's a little bit misleading. The garages are actually carports. So of all likelihood of a car actually being parked in there is high. It won't be stored with junk, for lack of a better term. So there will be a car in the carport and then on the driveway. And then we have 3 additional designated off or on-street parking spaces.
So we're going to have to coordinate that with the fire marshal on what they would require for a width. This would be a private road that would be owned, maintained by the villa. The stormwater comments, I think we could, if we can defer those to further review with staff, we can do that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. There are any other comments from staff?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, just a couple of questions for Larry. Larry, I just recently looked at this, and the thing that struck me is this phase 1? You've got more room here for more units, or are we looking at phase 1, or is this all the villas wants to do?
All they want to do at this time, there's in the works to do something else, but they don't know what yet. So, but they know they want to do this now, but it's not in a master plan of phase 1, phase 2, anything like that.
Yeah, because I mean, you obviously have room there to put at least another 2 or 3 units around the cul-de-sac. And, maybe there's something prohibiting it. I don't know, the stormwater or something, it's prohibiting that. But and it would be good to know exactly, what their intention is now so we can plan for it. I mean, that's why we're here at the Planning Commission. And it's specifically for Public Works for, like sewer planning. Was sewer planning modules prepared? Are they being submitted? Is there a narrative?
There will be. That's going to be performed by All County. Let me get my notes.
And then my follow-up to that is when they look at this, there's no subdivision here, so it's all one lot. So we'll be looking at what the current sewer planning is for the lot and what the proposed is, as we do for anyone. So we'll need to look at the entire lot. So you would need to look at all of the sewer use on this lot.
And would each one of these cottages be equivalent to a 1 EDU at 262 gallons?
Yeah, 262.5. That would be for an equivalent dwelling unit. Now, this is a bit of a special use. These aren't, I don't know if these would classify as townhouses, for a family. Is there a restricted use here, Larry, for these units?
I'm assuming, I don't know what the restriction is. I'm assuming it would be like a husband and wife that need assisted care, or I can find out what the exact use is, but I don't. I mean, I don't think that a family would be living there. I don't know what restrictions there are.
It would be good to note that, because then that would definitely, have an impact on how the proposed use would be. If it's just, a senior couple, just a husband and wife, or maybe just one, obviously that's not going to be the same as having a young family, and you're not going to be using a full 262.5 gallons per day. So,
Tim, would it
yeah.
be, Tim, would it be fair if they got flows that are from a similar facility such as Phoebe or the Highlands?
Yes. And I know that Highlands has similar cottages. I don't know if Phoebe does or not.
They do.
They do. Okay. That would certainly be appropriate.
One other thing I thought that in lieu of having the ability for on-street parking, and this goes back to the fire marshal's comments that he had provided, would be to lengthen the depth of the driveway, just so that they can fit a standard automobile onto that facility versus the on-street parking. That way the carport is serving the residents, and then there's a spot to pull up and visit for visitors. So that would then take off the, otherwise we're widening this probably 32 feet.
And Larry, what is the disturbed area? Are you looking, it looks to be greater than 1 acre. Are you looking at an NPDS permit?
Yeah, it's under an acre. It's in.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. That's deceiving. And do you want to just give me just a thumbnail sketch of the stormwater management? I think I read quickly in your narrative that you were going to address rate control.
Yeah, we addressed rate control. We have an underground bed. So basically just a stone bed
Right.
underneath the cul-de-sac.
Is it lined? Is it pervious?
It is not lined. So we have geotextile on the sides and top, but not on the bottom, and there's no impermeable liner on the bottom. So we're infiltrating, but we're not promoting infiltration. We're not taking credit for it because we have very low infiltration rates out there, and at some spots we have a high bedrock elevation.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think that's all my questions.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners?
Yes, this is Lee Olson. I look at the site plan and I am saying to myself, why do I see this as being phase one of a potential three-phase development? And would you not be putting in the appropriate size stormwater management systems now? And should you be showing us the full build out down the road of this project? And also, when I look at on page 1 of the letter from Hawk Valley Associates, minimum lot size square foot is 10,000. So if you have 5 units and they're required to have a minimum of 10,000, aren't you now exceeding the 1 acre for NPDS?
The 10,000 square feet is for the entire site, Lee, not per unit.
So that minimum lot size is for the entire development, including those 5 units are within that 10,000?
I can't answer that question with, I can't answer that question with the information that's on here.
Jerome, I interpret the lot to equal one of those properties. Am I wrong?
You're wrong on that because these properties are meant to be leased.
Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay.
So we've answered the question about the lot size. What about the further development of the site? You've got a cul-de-sac there. That's just a perfect offshoot for the next phase. Is there any master planning thinking that if these 5 get occupied, that this now is an impetus to build 5 more?
At the present time, there isn't a master plan in place for any other phases. This is all they have right now. We asked that question at the beginning because DEP will want to see that too.
I think that's a very good question, Lee, and I think that they should come in here with some form of schematic, just to, they must have some idea what they want to do. So they should at least ghost it in to see what it would look like. So just to avoid inappropriate planning in the future.
Yeah, this is Peter Rye. I'm aware that the owner has bought the adjacent property, so the property that is to the right. And so that begs the question, what is the master plan? What is the master intent of this entire site? This is essentially a city block. It's actually along Museum Road, not Old Wyomissing Road. Those Old Wyomissing Road begins, I think, just a little further down and goes in the direction of the West Reading wastewater treatment plant.
That is correct.
Yeah, it's actually on Museum Road. This is one of only 4 properties that are non-residential in the Reading portion or Wyomissing portion of Museum Road until, of course, you get into West Reading where it becomes Fifth Avenue. And I guess my concern here is that, being as large as it is, it's essentially placing development into a residential neighborhood by virtue of the size of the property, which I know there's going to be community opposition to doing this. This building as it is currently is essentially the original estate of one of the industries, industrials. Somewhere in the history of this property, it was allowed to, in the use that it currently has. I think it was also owned by the church at one time, Catholic Church, but operates as this nursing home, basically in the original footprint of the buildings as they were built, perhaps back in the 20s. This is really the first major redevelopment of this property, but it is putting, essentially what is non-residential development facing Museum Road into the neighborhood just by virtue of its size. And the residents in this area, this is, well, obviously Wyomissing Park, one of the sort of preeminent suburban neighborhoods in the city of Reading, with very little non-residential use in it today. These 2 properties, this one and the one that I believe they've bought, there's the Reading Public Museum has an office, and I think there's an insurance office right next to them. But otherwise, there is no other non-residential use on the length of Museum Road until you get all the way to Shillington to Lancaster Avenue. This is a significant change for this neighborhood. And I'm just wondering, this is what we want to do.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I just want to confirm with Jerome that we have not received the Berks County Planning Commission comments.
No.
No? Okay. Okay, and Michelle, can we vote on the waivers before we receive the? I thought so, but I just wanted to double check.
Yes, you can take action on the waivers.
Okay, great. Okay.
I would suggest we table this.
Yeah, we can table this and do the waivers next time if you would like, Jerome.
Yeah, the waivers are going to be something that it's combining the preliminary and final plans. Just for Larry's sake, the scale of the plans are fine. So that they meet the code. So it's just the waiver of combining preliminary and final plan applications that that would, unless I'm wrong, Larry.
And you would like to do that at the next presentation, Jerome?
We could do that the next presentation.
Okay.
I agree.
And I hear agreement here in the room. So yeah, that sounds good.
And I would advise the applicant just to check with his client just to see if they have a longer range plan for consideration. I mean, I think everyone would be beneficial if we did have the some form of a conceptual plan for the rest of the site.
Okay.
Very good. Are there any other comments? Okay. Hearing none.
I just had one question. Do you want us to submit revised plans for the next meeting, or you just want to look at these again and just, or do you want to have us address these comments?
Could attempt to address these. That'd be fine, Larry. I would strongly suggest to focus on maybe the long range plan and the fire marshal's plan comments. And any comments that we have given you to date. I mean, that's fine.
Okay. Do you know when we have,
Go ahead.
when you want those plans in by?
If you can have them in by the first Tuesday of the month, that'd be wonderful.
And Jerome, you suggested like a technical meeting
Yeah,
with the
we did.
engineering and yourself. I think that would be appropriate too. My schedule's pretty full, but Larry, if you want to set something up, we'll try to make some room for sit down and talk about the technical stuff.
Who else on
Jerome,
your end? Oh, go ahead.
Jerome, excuse me, this is Lee Olson. I think I would also like to ask for the next presentation that the owner, the client, bring forth architectural elevations or 3Ds of what these units are supposed to look like in reference to the existing architecture that is there. It's a very significant building and it's a very significant neighborhood. And I am reluctant to pass judgment on just 5 footprints without seeing the aesthetic value of what they bring to the neighborhood. As Peter said, this is a very significant neighborhood in the context of the city of Reading. And I think decisions made will affect property values and also the aesthetic of the neighborhood overall. So before I pass any more judgments and any more opinions, I would prefer to see some of the architecture that gives me a better level of comfort than I'm seeing now.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. If there is nothing else from no other comments, do I hear a motion to table the Villa Independent Cottages preliminary land development plan?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Second?
Bob Conklin will second.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Or
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Opposed? Okay, very good. Once again,
Larry, we'll work with you on this, on the scheduling. We'll try and set that up within the next week and then also discuss the submission schedule.
Yep. Okay. That's fair.
very good. Thank you. Thank you to the presenter. We wish you a good evening and hope to see you next month.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the revised preliminary final plan review for Overlord Real Estate at 916 North 9th Street. And I'll turn this back over to Jerome.
Okay, great. This is another adaptive reuse project. This was previously approved by the, or granted zoning relief by the zoning hearing board through variances as well as the special exception to allow the adaptive reuse to occur in this former commercial use, which was an outlet, was the outlet mart at one time. The building is being converted into 9 apartments. There is underground parking or basement level parking, which we've looked at that in the past, where they have a separate point of ingress and a separate point of egress in and out of the facility, which does have the required number of parking spaces. We have provided our comments. This plan has been in the works for a heck of a long time. We have previously had reviews done by my office on June 17, 2021, by the Berks County Planning Commission on July 6, 2021, the City of Reading Public Works Department on November 17, 2021, and the City of Reading Planning Office on November 22nd, 2021, all of which brought up the same conclusions with the final verdict that we were awaiting for the planning modules. Planning modules are in, and they have been processed. The only issue that we have to consider is if we need a municipal improvements agreement for the sidewalks. And I'll throw that to Tim.
Just to clarify, you mean the planter boxes?
The planter boxes and if sidewalks need to be replaced. There was no official decision I saw in my records. Just if there are no sidewalk improvements, then we can move off that. Then it's just the planter boxes. And in this case, I think we can just tie that to the building permit stage.
Yeah, I can recap a little bit. Yeah, we came to the conclusion that sidewalk improvements would not be necessary. We were a little concerned that there may have been settling of the curbs and sidewalks, but after further investigation, we determined that we need further investigation. It's not as clear cut as it seems. The sidewalks and curbs are otherwise stable and will serve the purpose. They're not new by any means, but I don't think I could say that they don't meet city standards. And Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know that you have any issues with property maintenance, to your knowledge, any citations or failed inspections as far as sidewalks go?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, then I don't think Public Works has any concern with the sidewalks.
So now we're down to the planter boxes.
Planter boxes, yep.
No, we could tie that to the building permit and not unless they fail to do that, then we just won't issue the occupancy permits. So the plan's ready for approval.
Very good. Yes, I remember this plan coming back before us, and one of the comments I remember us making is just to double check with building and trades as to what type of fire separation they wanted between the parking area in the basement and the residential use. And I'm sure that since they've seemed to be very detailed and tried to do this step by step, I'm sure they have that information. Are there any comments from the commissioners?
This is Will, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to comment that this building, as of only, I think, a handful of years ago, was still in use as the outlet mart. And as such, I believe was the last business of the entire city operating under, the name of an outlet. And it's close to the main Reading Outlet Center. And so with all of those properties either having been developed or redeveloped or in the process, I'm glad that this building has not sat too long. It would have been kind of depressing, so I'm pleased that this is going forward.
Okay, thank you, Will. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would just add that the commission is so inclined to grant the approval. So the minutes reflect that it's conditioned upon the planter boxes being part of the CO in the building process. So that it's documented somewhere that should not occur.
Part of the
Certificate of use.
certificate of occupancy. There we go. Okay. The name escaped me for a moment. So with that, do I hear a motion to approve the revised preliminary final plan for 916 North 9th Street, provided that the comments on Jerome's letter of March 9th, 2022 are satisfied to the staff approval, and that and with the provision that the planter boxes will be removed that the planter boxes will be taken care of to the approval of the city, or else a certificate of occupancy will not be issued for this property. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll offer a motion to that effect, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Will. Do I hear a second?
Bob Conklin, I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Okay, question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We have approval, and we look forward to the reuse of this building.
Mr. Chairman, just wanted to bring up one final point. The letter that I had issued on March 9th was based upon all the other letters that were previously issued for this project. I basically took them all and included the outstanding issues. Just want to make that sure that that's clear for the record.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we will move on to the Saldano Banquet Hall conditional use application. Oh, hi, Jim.
Hello, I appreciate Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to appear in person. We realized we could be there virtually, but Ms. Saldana and Mr. Adames wanted to come in to be able to introduce themselves and answer any questions. And the plans with it as you offer your recommendations.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. Would you like to introduce the conditional use, Jerome?
Yes, this is a conditional use application. It is number 2020-01. This is a conditional use to permit a banquet hall located at 2040 Center Avenue. This is a 15,300 square foot lot in which it's going to be a revision to an existing commercial use, which was a bank or financial institution. We did provide the definition of what a banquet hall is, but I'll let Joan do a little bit more of a presentation at this point.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerome. This is going to be a banquet hall, and we paid strict attention to the definition of what is a banquet hall. It is not a nightclub, it's not a tavern, it's not an after-hours club. And Ms. Saldana and Mr. Adames have run banquet halls, and they would operate it within that definition and not allow it to become anything beyond that. It would be a place of assembly with the with the emphasis being on family-oriented events such as weddings, birthday parties, quinceañeras, sweet 16s, and business functions, that type of event. You saw up on the screen the proposed adaptive reuse of the bank space into banquet hall space, approximately 2,175 square feet. What you saw are 13 tables there. The concept will probably be redrawn for the zoning hearing as 10 tables. It's well under what the occupancy limits would be for that type of space. We believe it's an appropriate adaptive reuse within that zoning district. It is close to a place of entertainment, that being the stadium, and other commercial and heavy industrial uses. You're not going to have the friction that a banquet hall or a place of entertainment would have with, for example, a heavily residential use. Again, it would be an LCB licensed facility. Employees would be trained, appropriate security provided, and it would be a productive use of a now vacant space. The one issue that I believe Mr. Skrinkowski will bring up will be that of parking. The plans now show 22 existing spaces. We believe we can provide another 12 spaces for 34. Even at 13 tables of 8 of 104, that would be approximately 1 space for every 3 tables. And again, we believe that the occupancy is going to be targeted to less, so that there will be at 34 spaces sufficient parking for employees as well as for guests. But we are glad to answer any questions that staff may have or the commission may have. And again, Ms. Saldana can also answer any questions that you would have.
Thank you, Joan. Any questions or comments from staff?
Hi, this is Shannon Kalori. Good evening. My question, Joan, we spoke on the phone and we talked about how the parking that you show on the site plan is not actually part of the parcel, but you didn't talk about that. You're indicating that that you have enough parking spaces, but that lot is not part of the proposed banquet facility parcel. Can you comment on that?
Well, first of all, the city does allow in its zoning ordinance off-site parking at a distance of less than 300 feet. And Mr. Adames and Ms. Saldana are actively pursuing that additional parking that would be able to be available. But that type of shared parking would be available. Again, we would attempt to get as much on-site parking, off-street parking as possible, but there are many opportunities and they don't have to be dependent on the stadium. To answer Mr. Beeler's question that he had in some correspondence, they don't necessarily have to be dependent on the stadium. There are also commercial and industrial uses within that 300 feet from which spaces could be rented or shared under a contractual arrangement, because this is a facility that would most likely be used at different hours than the industry surrounding it. So that would be one way of addressing it. In addition to because this is also an adaptive reuse within a conditional use proceeding, we believe, just like with special exceptions, that the city council would be able to consider modifications to the parking requirement, but we can also request a parking variance with the zoning hearing board if necessary. Again, this is a good productive use for a now vacant property that would put it into a desirable use for the neighborhood, and a place with near perfect access out to 61, where traffic is not going to be an issue and where friction with neighboring uses would not be created.
Joan, did these 22 parking spaces, did they have, did the bank have access to those via lease in the past?
Did the bank have access? Do you know the answer to that, Kathy? Whether the bank had access to the 22 parking spaces in addition to the 12? My clients are saying yes, they did.
Okay, that's something I think you ought to present as part of your conditional use application or zoning variance if necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, when this was a Citizens Bank branch, I always parked in that parking lot. And I believe the employees did too.
Mhm. Yes, again, but parking, again, the spaces, we believe, between shared parking, parking by rental and parking on site, we believe that adequate parking will be available.
And this is Shannon, just another comment. So the banquet hall use is permitted by conditional use in the zoning ordinance. If you're looking for also adaptive reuse considerations, then that also needs to go to the zoning hearing board. Just for a note.
We are prepared to go to the zoning hearing board if necessary for any variances. But again, this is a use which is permitted by conditional use. And we believe that we can meet the criteria for the banquet hall use and that it could be a very beneficial use for the area. City council saw fit to have it as a conditional use.
Shannon, I also brought up that this, the lot itself is a non-conforming lot of record that's within the MC zoning district. The previous use was occupied on the same building, and they would have been required to do the same 20,000 square feet. I was thinking that this could be addressed either by conditional use, by the Board of Supervisors acknowledging that this is a trade-off of uses on a non-conforming lot, or it should be done by zoning hearing board. Did you have anything further to say on that?
Thank you for asking that question. I'm just thinking, I mean, I'm not sure I'm prepared to answer that, right now. Ultimately the zoning officer can approve one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use unless they determine it needs to go to the zoning hearing board. So I'm not sure the Board of Supervisors has, or I'm sorry, the City Council has a role in making that determination.
The question I have for Joan then is, will there be any additional site improvements located on the 15,300 square foot lot?
There will be no change to the footprint of the building. The changes will be interior demolition and construction. There may be changes needed to provide for parking or access, but again, the building footprint will not change. But those issues would be addressed with a minor land development plan. We realize that a minor land development plan would most likely need to be submitted with the change in use and with any changes for parking, for example.
Joan, with the adaptive reuse projects that we did have in the past that did not have parking spaces, we did just require that they provide some form of lease agreement to, again, that goes to the 300-foot rule. And of course, the 22 parking spaces that are immediately adjacent to this would qualify.
Okay, yes, and we believe that that with a lease agreement or for shared parking, that the parking requirements could be met in the context of a conditional use proceeding. To answer another question though about the lot size, the non-conforming lot can house a conforming use. So we believe it's going from one conforming use as a bank to another conforming use as a banquet hall, and the conditional use would be the appropriate place to address this rather than as adaptive reuse as a special exception and going to the zoning hearing board.
Yeah, thanks, Jonah. That's the question I was, maybe Shannon can provide that to the city council separately. Just to make sure that that is clarified, that you're not changing the exterior portion of the property. It's just the interior with the use, and it's going from one permitted use to another permitted use.
That's correct.
If I can just interject for a second, I just wanted to put on the record, the definition for adaptive reuse is the modification of an existing non-residential building for the purpose of converting it into residential. So the actual use of an adaptive reuse wouldn't be applicable here because it's not going to residential. So I just wanted to
Right.
kind of say that. I know that we use interchangeably for different types of development, but the actual definition is moving it to residential.
Okay, so we'll taking the ordinance definition that changes it to residential. Clearly, this is commercial to commercial, just different type of commercial.
It's called a revitalization project.
Revitalization and economic development.
Are there any other comments by staff?
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Tim. Just a couple questions. Just want to be clear that the spaces, the parking spaces to the west of the property would be City of Reading property. And I think it was already brought up that we need some clarification as far as the agreement for those spaces and any other spaces that would be available for this use. You know, we'd have to clarify to make sure that that's in place. I know they're being shown here, but I'm not aware. There may be an agreement, but I'm just not aware of it. And then my second comment is, Joan, are you aware of the improvements that are being planned for the Reading Stadium, the Reading Phillies Stadium?
Yes, I am aware that there have been, I've been following the story that there are a number of improvements being made to that complex and based on Major League Baseball's rules.
Right, exactly. And I've had the pleasure of seeing it very briefly, but I don't think the Planning Commission has seen it yet. I don't think this board has seen anything with that stadium yet, and would be anxious to do that. So my question would be, would this improvement to this property have any conflict with the improvements being made? I think it would be good to find out exactly what, I know there's stuff being done to that side of the stadium, and I'm not sure exactly if it would or wouldn't have, any impacts to what you're proposing here on this property.
Well, we
Just a
have not,
comment.
right, we haven't received any notices of any improvement which would have the effect of a taking of this property or a quasi taking of this property. And I would presume that if that were occurring, that the property owner and the tenants would have received notice of that, and we have not to date. And actually improvements to the stadium and improvements to this property, again, would be of great mutual benefit to each other and to the city.
I agree.
Maybe it might be a good idea to follow up on Tim's idea, would be possibly to have a meeting between this applicant and also with the Reading Phillies, with their folks who they had, and just to, discuss these improvements together. That way there's going to be no conflicts.
Yeah, I know they're working on it, and I just don't know if it's quite ripe yet for them to make a presentation to this commission. So it's just that you're so close to it. Just want to make sure that there isn't something that needs to be seen. That's why we're here, to talk about it and to network. And I don't see anything offhand either, but it's close enough that we'd want to make sure that we're not improving, that we're actually making things better.
Well, I appreciate that, and I can make contact with the Reading Phillies organization and Mr. Hunsaker to discuss.
Yeah, it would be a good contact.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Any other comments from staff?
This is Bob Conklin. I just want to follow up with Tim's comments that when the applicant does make contact with the stadium, I think a very close and informative discussion about parking needs to take place, because when the stadium has an active game going on, the parking does get very aggressive, even though they do have a shared relationship with Carpenter. I'm sure that if you have an event going on the same day, it's going to become a very difficult task to find a place to park.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the recommendation, and we will have to follow up with discussions with the Reading Phillies organization.
You could probably coordinate that maybe with Shannon. That might be your best point.
Okay, that would be fine.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. If I may follow up too, Commissioner Coughlin raised the point I was going to, which is notwithstanding the improvements to the stadium, just the normal usage for games, but also for other events that are held there. I know for games at least, people park in this area. And also egress onto 61 can get backed up when when the events are over. Well, that only lasts for a short time, but it's obviously something that it would be prudent to coordinate with. And so therefore, I suggest just a recommendation that the applicant also talk with the Stadium Commission, because after all, this is our facility, the city's, and as I said, it is available for being rented out for other events, and occasionally there are other significant events throughout the year. Just to coordinate that, but I do see the potential here that, people can have a private party here, before or after an event or something, and this really could be mutually beneficial, which was said, I agree with that. But as long as everything is coordinated, I think it could work out very well.
To follow up
thank
on
you.
that, Will, Pannoni Associates is representing the Reading Phillies, and they are doing the traffic studies that are going to be necessary, because they also want to do further parking, not on this site, but on further back behind, I guess, right center field. That's going to be part of their project when they do that. So they're going to be doing a transportation study with that. And Jim Dimmerling is going to be reviewing that for PennDOT. So we will have good representation on that comment.
Thank you. That's great. And of course, as Tim Kroll mentioned, I mean, I would love to see the plans for the stadium, but that's a side note. I have just one question for Joe London, because this is a conditional use application. I was just curious what's shown on the floor plans for a prep area. Is that just, is it just going to be preparation, or is a full kitchen proposed, with all the requisite things that, are for that? What did you have in mind there?
Well, it is labeled as a food preparation area. Is that a full kitchen? It will not be a full kitchen.
Okay. I was just curious. Maybe in the future you could if you saw the need for it, but I was just wondering. Well, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Will. I'll turn it over to Lee.
Thank you. Joan, I think it's critical that the sooner you can get to the Reading Phillies, the better. Because I looked at the site plan here, and from what I have seen strictly in the press, is that they are going to build a major food service area out dead center field. And when I look at the plan, and I know that I know that the stadium is in negotiations with the caterer to really make it quite a destination. So I think the sooner we can find out, you can find out, and your client can find out just what it is they're planning, the better, because I envision it being a massive food service operation.
Well,
Suites and the whole thing.
yeah, I mean, the only thing I can say to that is that in their planning, they have to plan for the fact that there is an existing building there. So it would have to be within their calculation that there would eventually be some use of that. But I do appreciate the suggestion to speak with the Stadium Commission and the Reading Phillies organization as soon as possible. I think coordination of efforts is a good thing.
Yeah, because the word on the street is that they're looking at increasing the bus tourism to come to games, to bring more people in and to, have banquet style seating prior to a game or during a game or even suites as well. So I think it's well worth it to
Yeah,
look at it.
Thank you. Yes, I will take that. I will take that suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners? Would the applicants like to make a statement? Okay.
This is Kathy Saldana, and she'll be speaking for both of them. She's more English proficient and be speaking for both of them. If you'd like to just introduce yourselves and tell the commission your experience with banquet halls and the way you have run them at home. Yeah, come on up to the microphone.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Saldana, and I'm come from New York. In New York, we had 3 banquets halls and a restaurant too. My sister lives here in Reading, and I see a lot of potential of the type of business that I do. I have 9 years of experience of event planning and how I say the restaurant and the banquet hall. And I see a lot of potential, and I decide to come in and do the investment and bring my work and my knowledge to here. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that really sums it up and very helpful for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the planning commission has the option to provide a recommendation to city council regarding this application on just the use. And or if you do not have a recommendation, then we'll just mention that to city council that the planning commission did not have a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, if I just can ask, I'm not sure if Jerome or Joan can answer. Has a hearing been scheduled yet?
No, we haven't received notice of a hearing. That was the next question I was going to ask of Jerome, whether he knew whether when or whether a hearing had been scheduled or would be scheduled.
This is Shannon. Yep. This is Shannon. I think it was determined today that the hearing will be on the 27th. I'm sorry, let me just check my calendar of April. Yeah, I'm 90% sure it's the 27th, and Attorney London will be in touch with you tomorrow to confirm that date.
Okay, thank you.
And then just to add, if you desire to make a recommendation for them to approve the conditional use, you could recommend conditions as well.
Very good. If there are no other comments, then do I hear a motion to recommend to City Council the approval of the conditional use application for the Saldana Banquet Hall?
I will make that recommendation.
A second.
Okay, we got Lee and Nelson. Okay. Question on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I believe we have a recommendation for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Jerome, just point of clarity, will you or Shannon, I'm not sure who to address this to, will you be preparing a letter to council?
I already did do a letter to council, but we can put a separate letter just from the planning commission that they've made the recommendation. I could do that.
Very good. Yes, obviously, Mrs. Saldana does, know a little bit about what's going on there, so wish them the best of luck with that. Let me get the right piece of paper here. Okay, next on our list here is to review the Planning Commission Annual Report for 2021. If Jerome would like to introduce this while I'm looking for my copy.
Yes. Pursuant to the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, Section 207, City of Reading Planning Commission is required to issue an annual report, and it's given to the governing body. So in this case, it's given to City Council. There is no precedent on what the report includes, but you should at least focus on plans that were reviewed during the course of the year, as well as identifying which plans have been approved. There's also a section you probably should include for projects, and also what amendments or reports that have been issued. So in my case, what I did was looked at what we did last year and also in subsequent years, and found that in some years we did not issue a report. Last year we did issue a report, but it was rather abbreviated. But so what I did was I identified our officers, and then the section B was identified the plans we approved and provided a summary. Section C was plans that have been submitted but have not been approved. Section D of the report is conditional use applications that have been discussed and Planning Commission made recommendations towards. Section E is municipal plans, reports, and ordinances that the Planning Commission has worked on. Section F is Planning Commission resolutions that have been adopted during the year. And the last section is Planning Commission projects and activities that have been conducted during the year. This does, we already missed the deadline. The deadline's March 1st. But we would like to present this at our earliest convenience we can, and I want to make sure it's complete and as we move on. I did notice that there was a number of resolutions that were missing from September, October, November, and December. And there were other actions that may have been taken that I want to make sure that we've got the full length, especially with activities that the Planning Commission participated in. I gave it my best shot at this stage. So what we could do is possibly work on it during the month and have it ready for approval by the Planning Commission on April 26th. And then presentation to council thereafter, or we could set up a special meeting. But I'll leave that up to you. It's definitely not ready yet because I think that there's still some things that need to be filled in.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners?
I reviewed it, Mr. Chairman. This is Will, and I submitted some minor edits. The only thing I added substantively, you'll appreciate, was that we're participating in the discussions on the city greenhouse project. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think actually this is pretty standard form what our planning consultant has come up with. I don't think we had many, but I think we even would cover like appeals from the zoning in past reports, but I don't know if that's essential or not. I think this pretty much covers things.
I know I just gave this to you yesterday, so it's.
Yeah, I'll have to go through and take a look at some older ones, but this looks pretty much, everything that we used to have when we regularly did the annual reports. There are a few years missing because we didn't have staff to do them. So that's why there are some missing reports. Any other comments from the commissioners? Then I think what I would like to do, like as Jerome said, we have a little bit more research to do. There's some resolution numbers missing and a few minor things, and I have some minor edits that I can submit to Jerome. But Jerome and I can get together and finish this up. Since I'm pretty much the keeper of all the paperwork. So I think we'll just leave it at that for the moment, and we'll move on to the next section for our on our agenda, and that is the South.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, could you just, if the commission was so inclined, set a deadline as to when they could provide any additional comments they have on the report to allow Jerome to prepare our more financial.
Oh, yeah, good idea. Let me grab a. So, of course, my phone's screwing with me now.
I didn't catch that, Michelle.
So.
I had just suggested they set a deadline to get comments to you by anybody
Okay.
other than that way, because Wayne's going to work with you. That way you can get a report.
So our next planning commission meeting is 26th. So we set a deadline for the 12th. That would give Jerome 2 weeks to finish it up.
It just took me a couple days to do this, so we're good.
Okay, then, yeah, then we'll do the 19th.
Okay. Maybe what we could do, Wayne, is maybe meet at City Hall and in case we need Emily's assistant or someone else in staff to go through. Again, I think the missing things are the resolutions. And maybe this is a good question for Michelle. Michelle, if resolutions weren't issued for plans that were approved, do we then reissue them? Or, for example, we had resolutions that were approved through a lot of the projects. And then all of a sudden, resolutions stopped being issued.
I wouldn't be concerned if, I would not issue them at this time. I would just put a date that the plan was approved.
Okay.
Be concerned with issuing a resolution now.
Is that a city mandate that we issue a resolution?
It's part of the MPC, I believe, that has to be a resolution. But the purpose of the resolution is anybody could, so that there could be an appeal. But I believe the 30 days appeal time is expired.
Yeah.
Concerned with doing that.
Okay, we'll work on that then.
And I'm available if you have any other questions about that.
Okay.
Okay, great. Anything else for the annual report? Okay, we will move on to the draft amendment for the Saldo sections 515-312B and 515-312D. And I'll let Jerome introduce the reason for these changes.
Yes, based upon a lot of questions mostly from developers with respects to what's required for a revised plan of record or a change of use, we attempted to modify or come up with proposed language for clarification on what's going to be, what wouldn't be necessary for either of those. Most of those fall into a minor land development plan. It also then goes into the discussion points of how can it be waived or when it's not required. And it's all based upon impacts. My favorite provision of the zoning ordinance is adaptive reuse. And when an adaptive reuse comes in, it generally generates or triggers a lot of questions. The building doesn't change, and sometimes the exterior of the building change, but there may be other implications that need to be addressed, such as stormwater management, site accessibility, traffic control, parking, loading, sanitary sewage disposal, water supply, emergency management, landscaping, lighting, curbs, sidewalks, streetscape. So, I mean, those are just the ones that I came up with as a listing, just for discussion purposes. We see there's a great gap in, or for the plans that are generally approved by adaptive reuse, we see that there's some significant attention that's necessary, and then there's just minor attention. The bottom line is if the use has been approved and it's a permitted use and there's going to be no impacts, there's no reason for a revised plan of record or a change of use plan or a minor land development plan. But if there are impacts, then we definitely need protocol to be put in place that makes it fair and reasonable for those types of application. And I think you saw it tonight with 100 South 4th Street. When you take a building that was used for a warehouse or a manufacturing use, and then you convert it to residential apartments, there are a lot of moving parts that need to be considered. So there are objections, and we've had these provisions in place. It was based upon our discussion probably a year and a half ago that generated the initial scope or provisions that we put in play under section 515.312. The purpose of this amendment is to put further clarification, add some definitions. And this is what I came up with after my discussion with both Michelle and Shannon. And I'd like the Planning Commission to weigh in on this. There's nothing that we need to make a decision to tonight. If you think that this is going along the right track, then we should probably forward it to the Berks County Planning Commission, who doesn't understand why we need these regulations. But I think if they saw the types of applications we get, they would understand it.
I would just add, I think this is a great draft, and I appreciate your effort following our lengthy discussion on this issue. I would not recommend sending it to BCPC at this time. I would like to get some of your feedback, and for us, Jerome, Shannon, and I to collaborate again and get a draft
I agree.
before sending it to BCPC.
I agree.
Okay. Are there any comments from the commissioners on this draft?
Mr. Chairman, this is Will. I reviewed it. I have no edits. Substantively, I think it does clarify things that we saw previously were confusion for the developers. So I think this simplifies the process so we can avoid having applicants come in if it turns out that there really isn't anything of any effect. So I think this is the right direction, and I can't hear everything. There's some of the acoustical bugs tonight, so I think what was being said just now was that some of the staff want to review further. That makes sense to me. But I think substantively it's good. If it would help the Berks Planning Commission to understand, I mean, most of what we do in this city is redevelopment, right? I mean, because unlike in the county where they're developing areas that have not been developed, most of the city, the overwhelming majority has been developed already. It's, like I say, the bulk of our work is expansion or redevelopment of existing properties. So we definitely, and we have a lot of interest in doing that. And this is therefore a good tool that will help us. So I appreciate that this was brought forward.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Will. There any other comments? Actually, I have none. I found two minor grammatical things, but that was it, because I do think this does clear up a lot of quite a few issues that we've run into over the past few months. So I think we'll send this back to the staff for another review, and we'll see a new draft next month.
Yeah, I'll try and get that to you at least 2 weeks before.
Great. All right. Next, I don't know if we have any more information on this, but we're up to number 10 on the agenda, and we've had some intimation about zoning map revisions and zoning text amendments dealing with public parking areas. So if Jerome has any more information on this.
I was asked that we table this until we track down the origins of this amendment. This is the off-street parking and loading that was provided. Jamal is looking into this further. This was a bit of a surprise to all of us on where this came from. So that portion's taking care of. The zoning map revision, as you know, with Albright, that's all been initiated. I believe City Council now has a date for that hearing. You've already made your recommendation, but I just wanted to give you an update on where that was. And that's it for that.
Very good. Any comments, any other comments from staff on this issue? Okay, very good. And now I'll have Jerome go over the old business and give us the, go through and quickly give us the project updates as to how close we are to getting this stuff off his desk.
We've got a number of active projects, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to provide you. There's only going to be 3 things that need for you to take action on. All the others are just going to be just updates. Albright College, Exeter Hall, as you know, you approved the final plan in January. The stormwater management agreement and also the municipal improvements agreement are all in the final works. Plans have been provided to the city for signatures. Michelle, do they have a green light on your end for the agreements?
They can sign the plans this evening if they so desire, but I don't want them released until the escrow and the financial security has been received. I understand from them that the agreements are here, but the escrow is not here.
Okay.
So I'm just, plans can be signed but not released.
And
we still need a planning module approval too.
Okay, I was not aware of that.
Okay.
We're talking about Exeter Hall. Yeah, it's in. I understand it's with the DEP, but we haven't heard anything yet.
Thanks, Tim. Next one is Alvernia University Berkshire Building. This is in the final plan stage, but they have a zoning hearing board hearing scheduled in April. So we'll have that on our agenda for further review on April 26th. The next one is Reading Station, Building D. This is CubeSmart. This is the 1-lot subdivision. They have their zoning hearing board also in April. We'll have this for final review at our April 26th meeting. MJ Ryder Annexation Land Development Plan. The applicant has submitted the revised plans. It all looks good. I think I'm going to need to go over this in further detail with Tim because there were some public works issues before. So we'll hope to have this on our agenda for April 26th for approval. Next one is Iron Gate Land Development Plan. This is in the preliminary plan stage. We've had 2 site meetings now and probably 2 Zoom meetings. We may be making progress or we may be still treading water. We've had a lot of productive dialogue, I think. I'm not so sure if our recommendations are falling on deaf ears, but I think we've made a lot of statements to their benefit. So the ball's in their court. There's still time on this project for further review. And so it's tabled at this point. Remcon Plastics Land Development Plan was previously approved. They are in the have been finalizing their municipal improvements agreement as well as their stormwater management agreement. I know Michelle has been working with Mark Cook on those 2 points. So once those issues are ready, those plans can be signed and released. Habitat for Humanity. This was in the final plan stage and was approved. Again, we're doing the municipal improvements agreement and stormwater management agreements. Those, it's my understanding that those have all been resolved now due to the resolution that was passed by City Council. Michelle, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure you saw the email I sent out late last night. Council did pass the resolution, but we are still requiring improvements agreement and a stormwater agreement. I sent the form out last night, told them if they wanted to mark it up or I could mark it up in consideration of the resolution. So I'm just waiting to hear back. They acknowledged receipt of the email, but I'm just waiting to hear back as to who will be doing the markup of those agreements. Because as we discussed at the last meeting, we want to ensure that anything not covered by HUD is provided for, or they're required to provide for at that time.
Hope Rescue Mission. Hope Rescue Mission is in the final plan stage as well. It looks like they had submitted a revised plan for further consideration. So that plan will be on our agenda, most likely on April 26th. The Scheibner annexation plan, the revised plan was resubmitted. You granted final plan approval on your February 22nd meeting. There were no municipal improvements required for this project, no planning module required, and therefore it was just John Hofford surveyors just needed to make some minor modifications. I believe that the plan is here. You can sign that one. Scott Street subdivision plan. This was a final plan that was approved, subject to the comments that was issued in our review letter. We have not gotten a revised plan back yet to verify compliance, so it still needs to be worked on. O'Neill Storage Facility, that has received preliminary plan approval, and we are waiting for a final plan at this stage. That concludes the active projects. There are 3 projects that will be requiring time extensions. Those are 1010 Elm Street Daycare. Is Dan here? The Prince and Princesses daycare facility. And here's one more. Emily, do you have that by chance?
For which one?
There's a third one. We reached out. I'll find it in a second. Elm Street Daycare. Oh, I got it. Inglesia Pentecostal Church. That's in the preliminary plan stage, and they'll also need a time extension. Dan is the representative for all 3 projects, and he has provided us with the paperwork for the time extensions. by the way, Dan had also informed me that he has, the planning modules have now been processed for these projects.
Did we skip the medical arts building?
Right, I was gonna ask, I think we all know where it's at, but
Medical,
I think
oh,
we skipped.
thank you. Medical Arts is going to deviate from their plan. They are going to just focus on the annexation of the two parcels, and the building will be done under a separate plan. What I'm going to ask them to do is put notes on the plan that the building will be its own phase, and it'll be a land development plan. This one will just be an annexation of the two properties. So it's a situation, I don't think that they may not have resolved the building that's adjacent to this property and the windows. So thank you for, I missed that one, but it's going to be on our agenda next month.
Okay. And for those time extensions, Jerome, how long does he want it extended? 90 days?
90 days.
Okay. All right, so let's go with that. Do I hear a motion to to accept the time extension for 1010 Elm Street Daycare for 90 days?
Yes.
Okay, Peter?
A motion, yeah.
Okay, Peter, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Question on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, very good. Do I hear a motion to to accept the time extension for Prince and Princesses Daycare for 90
Conklin.
days? Okay, thank you, Bob. Second?
Lee Olson.
Lee? Okay, question on the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. And the last one, do I hear a motion to accept the time extension for Iglesia Pentecostal Church for 90 days?
Lee Olson makes the motion.
Lee, second?
Second.
Okay, Peter? Very good. Question on the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. We have our time extensions. And going back to the question, will we be continuing to sign the plans digitally, Jerome?
That's a good question. Are we prepared? Emily, are we at that stage that we can do that now?
I would need to get set up with DocuSign and kind of figure that out. So once I figure it out, then I'll pass it on to the commissioners.
Okay, yeah, that'll work out fine, because that's the way that Naomi did it.
Yeah.
And I think it worked good for us. So, okay, great. So we're going to have an update on that.
It was
Okay.
also very beneficial for the applicant because I think they got their drawings a little faster. They didn't have to wait until the end of the month.
Yeah, I think that's true, because as soon as we all, finished signing it within a day or two, they got it back. So, yeah, that's very helpful. Okay, let's see here. A question about something, but I forget what it is, so I guess it wasn't that important. Any other announcements or other business?
I have a question.
I thought of something, Mr. Chairman. This is Will. I'm sorry I didn't think of this earlier, but we were talking about Route 61 and traffic, and that we were focused on the stadium. I just thought staff should consider this too. And if that applicant is still listening or whatever, even though their part is done, is that there's an active rail crossing just south of First Energy Stadium. It's one of those ones where there's no gate and they have to put the flares out and all that. And I think it's probably done at off-peak times, but it's, again, something that has to factor into schedules and timing and all that for traffic. I'm sure Public Works is aware of what I'm talking about.
I am, yes.
And speaking of Public Works, thank you for installing the stop signs at 13th and Perry across from the Northeast Middle School. That's much appreciated in the neighborhood. And do you have anything on that Madison Street versus Madison Avenue signage?
Oh, I have that on my list. Yes, you did mention that.
I've been meaning to
yes.
follow up with you and I haven't had the chance. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's
it is
all I
Madison
have.
Avenue,
Thank you.
right? Yeah, and also just to say, Will, in addition to 13th and Perry, we also did 2nd and Buttonwood, which was, I know, an item of controversy, and installed stop signs there as well. And in fact, we're now looking at doing something kind of new there. And we're going to be putting in some bump outs where you might have seen these in West Reading and some other areas where the curb line is extended out into the street area, but not into the travel lane, but where the parking area would be. Not the full width of the parking, but enough to give a road diet, a squeezing, if you will, of the pavement area, and giving an advantage then to those who are trying to cross the street, pedestrians who are crossing the street. It's less of a walkway and it's more of a traffic calming. In fact, it's more of a recommended traffic calming than even putting up stop signs recommended by PennDOT and other traffic engineers. So we're going to try it at that location and see how it works. And we may have some other areas that we're going to do that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, so I am wondering, do we have a website or repository somewhere for all of these documents, drawings, et cetera, that have come before this board, or am I to maintain my own collection?
No, all the documents are available on the city website.
They are, okay.
Yeah, and then Emily can get, we also have access directly to the Planning Commission server. But I have to
So
look up.
I have to double check if the plans, I haven't been uploading them to the website, because I just barely took over, but I can double check to see what all we've been making publicly available on the website. But we do keep it in our servers, so if you ever need something, and I believe the server you're talking about is like the FTP.
Yeah.
So those are uploaded on there as well.
So would you give me access to the FTP site? Or?
Talk to Shannon,
Yeah, I'll get,
because I don't know exactly how that works.
yeah. Shannon, did the username and password for the FTP site change?
I don't think it's changed, but I can make sure that all of you have the username and password and access. I can send a follow-up email.
Okay, great. Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, and Shannon and Emily, I also second that motion. I really appreciate when those plans are all on the server, because that's where I go to look at the latest collection and all the information. Some of the stuff I do, I put in there too. So I'm hoping that planning and zoning will keep that up and keep it up to date, because it is very helpful.
Yes, we will keep it up to date and we'll make sure everybody has access.
And I would just be
Thank you.
cautionary about uploading them generally to the city's website. There are some right protections on some of these plans. So I'm not the city's right to know officer, but if I was your right to know officer, I would recommend not posting them.
Are they not in the public domain?
Yeah,
once they're
public domain.
submitted?
No, not under the right to know. Somebody can come. Really quick introduction to right to know regarding land development plans. The Office of Open Records and the courts have upheld that plans are not to be produced because they're copyright protected under the right to know. You can come in and view them, but you cannot reproduce them in any way. So by posting them on the website, it
So
makes them.
I've just,
Well, it's different. You have the right to do them but if you were a citizen and wanted to, you got submitted, this is under the right to know, and requested a copy of the plans. I would deny the request and say, I can't copy them. You can come in and look at them, but you can't copy them. So that's a conversation to have with the city solicitor, but that would be my cautionary tale as to posting them generally.
but for us,
Oh,
Planning
on
Commission.
yes, on the link that you're referring to, that's perfectly fine. I'm talking about on the website,
Yeah.
the public website. Yeah.
Publicly available.
Yes.
Yeah, that's secure server, the one that we.
Yes,
log
the
in.
secure
Yeah,
server,
so
yes.
in the
Thank you.
password,
Yeah.
it's a
yeah.
track record.
And yeah, I'll get that. Shannon and I will coordinate and get that information out. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
No, will you include me on that?
Oh, sure. FTP server. Just write myself a note here. All right, let's see here. What was it? Thing did pop into my head. Something. Oh, that's what it is. Rustities. On what is it? 800 Windsor Street.
810.
810. You know, Rustities asked those questions. Did you get that email from me? With the information that Schuman gave to us in 2017?
I don't know if these here.
So, oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of Orestes because he had the question. But did you, Jerome, receive that email?
Yes, I received it from you.
Okay, great. As long as you have it and you know the background. As I said, there's supposedly a CD floating around here somewhere with the plans in PDF form. Yeah. So I might have to come in one day and go up to the office and take a look for it. And there's also supposedly 12 paper copies floating around City Hall somewhere of that plan. So, you know, we can take a look at that. This is Orestes is asking for this because the school district is going to go ahead with that project on 9th Street and build a new school, build a new elementary school there at 9th and Windsor. Yeah, yeah, we're the main, yeah, yep. So, yes, the school district's beginning to move ahead with that.
I didn't understand Aristoteles' query. Who owns the property? The school district?
The school district now does own it.
Then why wasn't that part of their due diligence when they bought the thing? Why didn't they get an Alta survey, get it surveyed and do the underground services? Why did they come to the city for that stuff?
So I guess Orestes was just seeing if we had anything so that they could do a shortcut, I guess. So that's what I'm thinking. And like I said, Schuman did submit something to us. So I figure, hey, you know, because that at least has that plan at least has the original footprint of the building on it.
But my question when I saw it was, who cares? The building, the site is completely demolished and it's been raised and they're gonna, it was just a strange request, I really.
Yeah, especially since they did some major excavation work on there to do the environmental cleanup.
To do the phase 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, so anyway, I tried to be helpful at least.
I understand.
Okay, anything else for that? Very good. Then we will go on and take a look at the minutes for our February 22nd, 2022 meeting. Does anyone have anything on this? Will?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. They were good also.
Okay, very good. I just have 3 minor things where it says unanimous instead of unanimously.
Oh,
That's what I caught.
yeah.
What look great. So with that, could I hear a motion to accept the minutes? for
Mr.
the-
Chairman, Nelson
Yeah.
De Leon, so move.
Oh, thank you, Nelson.
There you go.
Lee Olson will second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, and Lee for the second. And question on the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good.
Okay, I'll finalize those and send them back out.
Okay, great. Okay, our next planning commission meeting will be Tuesday, April 26th, at 6 PM. Does everyone like this hybrid version? I kind of like it.
I'll be here. Works for me.
Works for me.
I'll be attending live next time. The thing that I have a problem with is the screen only shows barely from Michelle, and I don't even know who's sitting to the far right.
Oh,
It's me. I'm in the control. I'm blocked by the computers anyway.
So I don't know if there's a way to widen the widen it
There
a
is-
bit.
Yeah, there is. Because of the technical difficulties, I didn't get to set up the cameras all the way properly, but next time, it should be better angled.
Yeah, you got it centered.
You gave it a 7?
I had trouble with hearing some of the speakers, so I don't know if it was proximity to microphones or if there's some glitch. So if those bugs could be worked out, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Will, I think it's a combination of microphones and also the acoustics in the room. The room is terrible.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Well, that's what I said, but we gave it a shot. I think for the most part it worked, but I definitely missed a few. I missed most of what our solicitor said, but I tried to, pick up the bits and pieces from it. So, yeah, some people come in more clearly than others. I don't know if you all can hear it
Right.
differently and then I'll ask people that watch the television if they can hear too, because their perspective is always different from ours. So we'll have to see how it went. But the DocuSign thing, if we don't have to, regardless of the hybrid, going forward, not to have to come in, like oftentimes we'd have to come in, drive downtown and park just to sign a plan right away. It was timely. That was a little crazy. So if we could keep that service going, I think that would be great if that's legally acceptable.
My only other comment, this is Lee, my only other comment, graphically, I could personally not see very clearly any of the site plans that were put up. So I think maybe the screens need to be pulled in a little closer to the seating area. They're great flat screens, but they're just too far away for me. And I know I'm getting old, but I'm not that old. So I think, quite honestly, I thought the pen room worked better than this facility did once we saw it in operation. When Wayne and I were here, I thought it was going to be a potentially a good session, but very difficult to hear people, and the graphics were not as clear and as large as they are down in the pen room. But I think doing this hybrid makes a lot of sense.
And Lee, just so we are missing 2 screens in the room. So where you see the stands, we are going to have more TV. So there would be one that's closer.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Okay.
they're just back
That's
ordered.
great. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that's good because I couldn't see it very well either. It's the same thing as on my computer home now.
And we did advertise the rest of your meetings as hybrid through December. My paralegal preparing the notice did note, and I just want to make sure you're aware of this, because we were not part of the original advertising dates. We just copied the dates. Your meeting in December is the 3rd Tuesday, not the 4th.
Okay.
The 4th would be the 27th. The 3rd is the 20th.
Yeah. And of course, the other alternative is to use the 3rd floor conference room. We'll have some discussions, but yeah, I thought overall it worked well, and it was actually nice to see Joan and her applicants show up. So
If you would change the location in City Hall, I wouldn't recommend advertising again. Just stick a note on the door, go to the 3rd floor, go to the 1st floor.
Yep.
yeah, okay,
It's not an expense, so that I would recommend the city take.
okay, great. Okay, and then I don't know what the system looks like in the pen room anymore, but the 3rd floor conference room is bigger than the pen room, and I think that would work better there's not as much of an echo up there.
Yeah, I could hear myself echoing, trying to be louder because I do know I am soft-spoken. And when I did, I could hear the echo.
Yeah. Yeah, so we might try the third floor conference room next time. But everything works, just works almost the same up there. So, all right, very good. Any other comments for the good of the order? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Okay, Nelson, second?
Lee Olson seconds.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
I can hear that.